everybody, it is Dean Z speaking to you from the University of Michigan Law School. And today I want to talk to you about application timing because it is the very beginning of the application season, at least at Michigan. I think some schools still haven't had their applications open, so hopefully this is very timely for you all. Last time I did this was at the very beginning of this whole video venture back in the pandemic, and a lot has changed since then, so I thought it would be good to have a little refresh. I guess I should say a lot has changed in the world. There is not much that has changed about this advice, frankly, but I feel like it's still worth a refresh. Okay, so common conventional wisdom about when to apply is apply early. And that is because, the reason people say that is because, as far as I know, every law school has a rolling admissions process, which is to say that they begin reviewing the apps as soon as they are completed. So if you submit your app on October 1st and it's completed, on October 1st, your application will be read before the person who submits and has it completed on October 10th, right? So the idea is if you apply earlier, you will be read earlier and you will have a decision earlier. And as a general proposition, that is true. But that gets a little warped in people's minds into thinking, like, I have to apply early in order to be admitted. There is some benefit to applying a bit earlier in the process, but it varies from school to school. Some schools it makes very little difference. I'd say at Michigan it makes very little difference. Other schools it makes more difference. That might have to do with surprises in a given year. Like some years there's a big wave of applications toward the end of the season that someone didn't prepare for. So in that kind of unexpected situation, you might be at more of a disadvantage if you're applying late. Things like that. And some people just, in my position, some deans of admissions just kind of get out over their skis. They read quickly, they make decisions quickly, and then the last couple weeks of an application season, they have 5 seats left to give away, and there's still 2 weeks more of applications coming in. So it varies from school to school. But the idea that it is life-making to apply early gets really warped in people's minds. I know this because I talk about my work a lot at home, and my son went to law school, and he has this deep in his brain, even though I've told him over and over, like, no, you are exaggerating the effect of this, but he goes around giving advice to this effect. So I'm telling you all this secure in the knowledge that no one's paying attention to me. However, I'm going to say it anyway. So, first of all, what does it mean to apply early? It does not mean, by no means does it mean you have to apply the day the application opens. You'd be amazed how many people think it means that. It doesn't. That is zero advantage whatsoever, because what happens for most schools is that for some period of time at the beginning of the season, the apps are just getting processed and put aside, and then they start getting read a little bit later, and then even later than that is when the decisions start getting made. And that's because most of the people who have my job do a lot of traveling in the fall, so there's no way to do a lot of application reading and decision making. So the first couple months, it's all a wash. If you can apply in the first couple months, you have applied very early. So early means sometime later than the first couple months, and that will vary a lot by school to school. My advice is, at Michigan, if you're applying before the first of the year, you have applied early. I've heard other schools say before Thanksgiving is applying early. Some schools say somewhere in between there, say December. So if you really want to apply early, recognize that early is a relative term. Okay, if I've said that it isn't critical to your decision that you apply early, why worry about it at all? I think it's important because you certainly will get an answer earlier if you apply earlier, even if it's a negative answer. And it is really great for you to have a sense of all the choices that are before you as early on in the season as possible. So you can decide, what schools do I want to visit? What schools do I really want to check out closely? What schools do I want to talk to other people about? What schools am I now going to just forget about entirely because I don't care? It is So applying early gets you that benefit. If you apply on the deadline, again, at Michigan, that's February 28th, I cannot get you an answer before the end of March. And at that point, then, you have 1 month to know what to do about your Michigan decision. Okay, so I do think it is helpful to you to apply early, even though I really don't think you should be driving yourself crazy with the timing. But the big thing I want to say here is if you are applying early in order to have some kind of edge in the application process, however small that might be and however much it might vary from school to school, nonetheless, you are doing yourself a disservice to come up with some artificial date like I am going to do this by December 1st, and then applying to make that date even if you're not quite ready. Like maybe you plan to work on your personal statement for, on and off for a 2-week period prior to that, and something else got in the way, a deadline at work or, schoolwork or whatever it is. And you didn't really get a chance to thoroughly evaluate and edit and proofread your personal statement. Don't just apply on December 1st because you told yourself you're going to apply on December 1st. Don't apply until everything is ready and beautiful. That is far more important to your chances of getting in than applying on a given date. All right. Finally, there's a question of financial aid. Does that make a difference? It can at some schools. Again, at Michigan and many schools that I'm familiar with, we have the same financial aid applies throughout the season. So even if I were to admit you the day before orientation starts, you would be getting the same financial aid as if you had applied on September 1st. But there are schools where it will matter, where they have a much, tighter financial situation, I'll say. So they might say, a dean could say, here you can spend $1 million on scholarships. When that $1 million has been spent, that's it. You can't spend more than that. And that means that if they give it out early and then you get in, they may not have as much money left for you. I don't think that's a huge problem. I haven't heard about that being a huge problem for people, but it is something to take into account. So to sum it all up, there are good reasons to apply early. Early doesn't mean as early as humanly possible in the second the application opens. It can mean different things at different schools. And whatever you do, don't apply before your application is in good shape. I hope that is helpful. And maybe I'll be talking about early decision in a future episode too, because of course that is the time of year we are in as well. Okay, now let's talk about grammar. Today I want to talk about verb-noun agreement because I got a very nice email from someone with another question, but at the end of it they said, I hope you could talk about verb-noun agreement because I actually had to look up the rule for a sentence in this email, which was very winning to me because I love it when people acknowledge that they have to look things up because I have to look things up all the time. But I think everybody understands the very basic rule that if a noun is singular, then the verb has to be singular. If a noun is plural, then the verb has to be plural too. So you would say, Dustin carries his video camera. Dustin is singular, carries goes along with it. If you say videographers carry their camera, you've got plural, plural, it matches. The tricky one though is when you say a group of videographers, what do? They carries, a group of videographers carries the camera or whatever, because a group is singular and that's what's modifying the verb later in the sentence. And it sounds so wrong often to our ears because videographers is plural there, but it's like a group of videographers. So you're not looking at videographers, you're looking at group. I should say at this juncture, all my grammar stuff is all self-taught. I don't think I've ever had a class in my whole life where they talked about grammar, except when I was learning a foreign language. So I know there are terms for this about like objects and subjects and blah, blah, blah. I don't know what they are. That's above me or below me or something like that. I don't know. But this is the thing, is when you have a group noun like that, you got to watch later in the sentence. All right, that is because on the one hand, lots of people make the mistake, so no shame. On the other hand, when you don't make the mistake and you're writing to somebody who cares about it, they'll notice. So, all right, that's all I have to say about that. I hope it was useful. Please keep sending your emails with questions and comments. We've got a lot. It's really great. I am trying to organize them and be as useful to you guys as I can, but please keep sending them on. You can send us emails at law.jd.admissions@umich.edu, or you can leave them in the comments below. Either way, we love to get them. And wherever you go, oh, whoops, forgot to say, thanks to Dustin for carrying his camera. And wherever you go, go blue.